Steve, what does the fund's global framework represent?
The global framework is essentially our view of the next decade. And one critical component is how we build that view and what's the source of our information. One of the issues with building a view of the next decade is that we cannot rely on commonly observed sources, such as what's on the front page of the newspaper. We need a better source, and we believe that we've found one. And that's by talking to the company managements themselves about where they're investing billions of dollars that will produce the world of tomorrow. We're able to build a more robust picture of what that world will look like. So aggregating, in our case, over 4,000 company interactions a year in order to build a picture of the world 10 years from now is aggregated into this single framework, what we call our global framework.
And what are the structural drivers of the next decade?
Well, that's very interesting because we see big changes in four areas. We see the first one being technology. Technology has been a big driver over the last decade in particular, and of course, now large US technology companies tend to dominate market indices as well. But we think that that technology will spread into other industries such as healthcare, such as in the industrial world. We think there are big changes coming in the world of technology. In terms of geopolitics, we think that the relationship between the US and China is very much an inflection point. The rest of the world is going to have to adapt to that. That means changes in everything from how we think about risk premium in markets right the way through to how companies think about supply chain. And the third of the four areas is really monetary policy. We think we're potentially at an inflection point here where the chances of moving into a higher inflationary environment for the first time in 40 years are now higher than they've ever been. And then finally, when we think about the incorporation of these changing societal norms into our view of sustainability, then we think that that impacts all of the others as well. And when we're taking these four aspects, we don't just think of them in isolation. It's all very, very important to think about the interrelationships and indeed to think about the policy reactions as well. So it's a complex framework, but one that makes sure that we don't leave any gaps in our thinking. And it means we have a chance to maximize the opportunities from these big structural changes of the next decade.
How are those structural drivers really reflected in those themes?
We think that an investment theme should be able to capture more than one structural change. So what we tend to find is that when we're looking at these structural changes, we're able to combine a number of them together. And really a theme should have as many tailwinds as possible in terms of big structural changes. And many of our themes are driven by not just one of technology, politics, monetary policy, or sustainability, but actually many of those.
What is it that makes that framework robust?
The robustness of the global framework is reliant on the source of the information, the fact that it's coming from the company managements who are allocating all the money to make the world look the way that it will in the next few years. But also it's to do with the holistic approach, the fact that we don't just hold everything constant and look at one structural change, but we think about this in quite a rich way. It really is an integrated tapestry of how the world will evolve and adapt over the next 10 years. And that holistic, integrated approach is what gives the global framework its real robustness.